Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Sometimes these stories we cover, they grab you right from the headlines.
Yeah, for sure.
And this one's definitely got it all right. We're talking about Jabrill Peppers.
Patriots safety, yeah.
On the field, the guy's a beast, but lately, it's all been off the field stuff. And not the good kind.
Definitely not. This is serious stuff we're getting into today.
Exactly. So, what are we working with here? We've got police reports, court documents, even like the whole arraignment thing.
Oh yeah, we're going deep on this one.
Because you know what? Everyone's heard the snippets, right? The quick headlines. But we're going beyond that. We're piecing it all together, all the details to see what we can learn. And honestly, it's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
So let's just dive right in. When you look at this police report, I mean, it lays out some really serious accusations against Peppers, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's crucial to remember right off the bat, these are just accusations. Okay, we're not talking convictions here. Peppers hasn't been found guilty of anything.
Right, of course.
What we're looking at, it's just the start, the very beginning of the whole legal process. That arraignment we mentioned, it's basically just the first step where they officially read out the charges, the defendant, Peppers. In this case, he says his piece. That's all it is for now.
So he pled not guilty then, right?
He did. Pled not guilty. And here's where it gets even more, I guess you could say, layered, for lack of a better term. The police report, it describes the woman involved in a particular way. Says she's Pepper's on and off girlfriend. 3 years.
3 years, wow.
And legally speaking, that throws in this whole other thing. Suggests there might be a history between them, Which, let's be honest, always makes these situations more complicated.
No kidding. Especially with accusations this serious. I mean, she's the one who called the police in the first place.
Yeah.
And her story, if it's true, Peppers totally lost it. Like, enraged over a phone call.
Sounds like it.
You'd think with all this, we'd be talking some knockdown, drag-out fight. But from what she's saying, it was one-sided.
Yeah, that's definitely the picture she's painting. Claims he physically forced her out of the apartment. And listen, I don't just mean some argument that got a little out of hand.
This is where it gets really bad, right? This is the choking, the pushing, all of that.
Exactly.
She says he choked her multiple times, pushed her head against a wall, followed her out into the stairwell, even pushed her down the stairs.
And it gets worse. Like, just when you think it can't get worse. She claims as he's forcing her out of the apartment, she didn't even have time to grab her own clothes. Got to throw on some sweatpants.
Oh, man.
And you know what investigators look for? Those details. And the police report, it does say she had visible injuries, scratched up knees, redness on her face. But, and this is where it takes a turn, she wouldn't go to the hospital.
Wait, really?
Wouldn't do it.
Right.
And she didn't want a restraining order against him either.
Okay, now that, to me, that doesn't make sense. If it was as bad as she's saying, why not,
No.
Why not get help?
It's a huge question. And it's a big deal. There's a lot of potential reasons why. Maybe she's scared of him, thinks he'll come after her again. It's possible she still cares about him, wants to protect him even after all this. Or, who knows, it could be something else entirely. We just don't know what's going on in her head.
No, you're right. We can't pretend to know that.
But it's a major detail. We can't ignore it.
For sure. Adds another whole layer to this thing. So we've got her side, her injuries, but also this hesitation, this reluctance. What's Pepper's take on all this? How does his story line up with these accusations? So we've heard her side, and I've got to say it's intense.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
But what about Peppers? Where does his version of all this even fit in?
Well, the police report, it gives us his side too.
Okay.
And it's a very different story, let me tell you.
Really? How so?
Like, he admits they were at the apartment, right?
Okay.
But he's completely denying the choking stuff, the pushing her head against the wall.
Wow, just flat out deny it.
Flat out. Claims she got angry, like really angry, when he told her he didn't, want to be intimate anymore.
Oh, wow.
And that's when the argument started, he says. Even goes so far as to say he asked her to leave, and that just made her more upset.
So he's saying she was the one causing trouble.
That's how he's spinning it, yeah.
And what about her saying he pushed her down the stairs?
That's where it gets really interesting. Peppers claims she fell, like all on her own.
On her own.
Says she was intoxicated, that's what...
Hold on, intoxicated. But the police report, it said the officers didn't smell any alcohol on her, right?
You're right, they didn't. It's in the report, plain as day. No smell of alcohol, no trouble speaking,
Exactly.
which, doesn't automatically mean he's lying,
Right, right.
but it's a pretty important detail.
Yeah, it kind of throws a wrench in that part of his story.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's what makes these cases so tough. It's basically one person's word against the others.
And we're stuck in the middle trying to figure out who's telling the truth.
Exactly. And it gets even more complicated. Peppers, he doesn't stop there. He actually claims she's making all this up to ruin his career.
Oh, come on, seriously.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. He's not just saying she's wrong, he's saying she has a reason to lie.
So now it's a motive thing.
Could be. Maybe she wants to hurt his reputation. Maybe she's after something else. We don't know. But it's a serious accusation.
This is insane. It's like every time we turn around, there's another layer, another twist. So what happens now?
Well, that's where the legal system comes in, right?
Right.
It's supposed to figure all this out, weigh the evidence. And speaking of evidence, there's one more thing. Video footage.
Video footage? What? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's like something out of a movie, right?
Hmm.
During that court appearance, Pepper's lawyer, he just casually mentions that he's seen video footage. And that this footage, it casts doubt on the whole thing.
Hold on. He just drops that
Pretty much. And he was adamant about it, even when Peppers agreed to that no-contact order.
Wait, back up. What's a no-contact order?
Oh, basically the court tells Peppers he can't go near her. Can't call, text, email, nothing. It's standard in these situations.
Makes sense. Protect the alleged victim and all that.
Exactly. But back to this video. What could it be? Security cameras. Someone's phone. We have no idea.
And why is the lawyer mentioning it so early? Seems kind of strategic.
Could be. Maybe he wants to scare the other side, maybe pressure them into dropping the whole thing. Who knows?
It's crazy how one little detail can change everything.
That's how these things work.
Yeah.
But it's not just the legal side of things that's got people talking. The Patriots, they're in a tough spot too.
Oh, for sure. What can they even do at this point?
It's a PR nightmare. They have to let the legal process play out, but they also have their image to think about.
Didn't Coach Mayo make a statement or something?
He did. Said he's aware of the situation. They're looking into it.
Vague.
Very vague. He's walking a fine line.
Yeah.
Acknowledging it, but not saying too much.
Yeah. You got to be careful with that stuff.
Absolutely. But even if Peppers is cleared, there could still be consequences. The NFL has their own rules, their own code of conduct.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
And they don't mess around with this stuff. We've seen it before, players getting suspended, even if they weren't charged with a crime.
So this whole thing, it could be career-ending for him.
Potentially. And it's a good reminder that this goes beyond football.
What do you mean?
This isn't just about a player and a team. It's about a much bigger issue. Domestic violence, it affects everyone.
That's true. You're right.
And when someone like Peppers is involved, it puts a spotlight on it.
It does make you think. This whole thing, it reminds me of something we were talking about earlier. Boston. And how it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right, that whole hidden crime thing.
Yeah, like that Boston true crime podcast we were listening to.
Yeah. It's easy to forget that even in a city like this, these things happen.
Behind closed doors.
Exactly. And it's often brushed under the rug. But having someone like Peppers involved, it forces people to pay attention.
No doubt. So where does this leave us? We've got these two completely different stories, talk of video evidence, and the Patriots caught in the middle of it all.
It's a mess. And who knows what's going to happen next? More information could come out, or it could just get more confusing.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
That's all we can do. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
For sure. This is one of those stories that just keeps you guessing. It's wild, right? This whole case, it could all come down to that video.
No kidding. Like you said, game changer.
Makes you think, though, what's on it? We're just, speculating here.
Right. And it's not just what it shows, but who's seen it already. That's important too,
Oh, totally. Witnesses, investigators, maybe even, the woman herself has seen it by now.
Each person, they see it through their own lens, you know what I mean? Their own biases, experiences, just adds another layer to all this.
It really shows you, even when you think something's straightforward, like video evidence, it's not.
Nope. Open to interpretation, always.
Speaking of layers, what about Peppers himself? I mean, the NFL thing, we touched on it, but if we're being realistic, what's he facing here?
Well, there have been similar cases, right? And it's not pretty.
Yeah.
The NFL, they've come down hard on guys for this kind of stuff, even when there weren't charges filed or anything.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They take this seriously, as they should.
So, even if he beats this in court, his career's still in?
It's definitely on the line, no question.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than just him,
What do you mean?
We can't just talk about the player, the team, the charges. This is about, well, it's about society. It's about taking domestic violence seriously, period.
You're right.
Doesn't matter who you are, what you do.
This whole thing, it's definitely got people talking about it more, at least.
That's something, right? If anything good can come out of this, maybe it's that. More awareness, more people understanding how serious this is.
Absolutely. So we're left with, what? 2 stories that don't match up, a police report, that video footage out there somewhere.
And a whole lot of unanswered questions.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like we said at the start, it's messy.
And it might not get any less messy for a while.
You could get more info, or it could get even more complicated. Who knows?
That's the thing with these situations. You just never know.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye on it, that's for sure. And for everyone listening, remember, we've only scratched the surface here.
Right. There's always more to the story.
Think critically. Don't jump to conclusions. It's easy to do. We all do it. But in these situations especially, gotta keep an open mind.
Truth is usually somewhere in the middle, you know?
Well said. All right. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Stay informed, stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next one.
The names and certain details in this podcast have been changed to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. While the cases presented are based upon real events, certain facts may have been altered or omitted for confidentiality purposes. Each case is inspired by real legal cases defended by White & Associates PC. This podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. White & Associates PC does not endorse or guarantee the accuracy or completeness of the information discussed in this episode.